In this video I'm going to show you how I made an army of Starship Troopers Arachnids for next to nothing and with things you probably have lying around your house. Welcome to Cheap and Easy Wargaming, where we keep the hobby fun, fast and affordable. Let's get started. So for the main body you're going to need a plastic clothes peg. This isn't the one that I used in the video, but I ran out, so this is for illustrative purposes only. You will need a bead of some sort to form the eye. I've used 4 cable ties. These are to make the legs and the weird little claw things sticking out of the head. For the base, I was hoping to use poker chips, as I've got a lot of these, as I've said before. However, they are a bit too small, so instead of using these Pringles lids, you can also get them off jars of coffee and various other foodstuffs. Your glue of choice, or a hot glue gun, as we've used here. An old pair of scissors, or if you're me, your pair of scissors, and don't tell your partner. Some pliers. This is to get some nice clean bends on the legs. As for paints, I am just going to spray them all in black spray paint, and then they just need some yellow stripe details. I have used these Sharpie markers, Sharpie creative markers, again just to be quick, but I know most people will probably be using paints, and that probably would give a slightly better end result. So to start with, we just need a plastic clothes peg. These come in all kinds of colours and designs, and to be honest, once they're all on the table and they're painted up, size, design doesn't really matter too much. They're all going to look pretty good. Whatever design it is, you can remove the spring, and this is then going to give you the basic head body of the arachnid, as you can see, with all of these weird little lumps and bumps just making the mouth that little bit scarier. So I did already have these clothes pegs, but as you can see, it's £1.50 for a pack of 20 of these. So the next thing I found best to do is to glue the back of the clothes peg here and just make sure that stays open in place. You can see the eye is already in there, but we'll come back to that in just a second. So then you just want to be gluing into the end of the mouth hole here, where the bead for the eyeball is going to be placed, and pop that in there as so. I've used a couple of different peg designs in the arachnids that I've made, and this method does still work with both. And then you should hopefully end up with something that looks a bit like this. So to make each leg, we are going to use a cable tie. The block at the top here is what's going to be attached to the body and attached to the other 4 legs. And what you want to do from here is measure 2 centimeters down, and then we are going to create a bend outwards. In order to get a nice sharp bend to the leg, I found the easiest way is to use this pair of pliers and squeeze down on the 2 centimeter mark where you're making the bend, and then once that's done, just really squeeze down on the pliers to get that nice sharp angle. As you see here, I made that bend in the wrong direction. You want to make sure that first bend goes the opposite way to the block. You then want to do the same thing again by measuring another 2 centimeters and bending the leg the opposite way. Same thing again, you want to make sure you're using those pliers to get a nice sharp angle to the bend. And again, just pinching the pliers to make sure it's nice and sharp. So the last one now, we're just going to measure 4 centimeters and make one more bend. This one's coming inwards, and this one is just to form a small area that can be used to glue the bottom of the leg onto the base. So once you've got that, you just need to make another 3. So with the 4th leg here, I decided rather than having it glued onto the base, I would have it raised. That would offer just a little bit more variety in the poses and make it look a little bit more dynamic and threatening. So what I did was trimmed it to the 4 centimeters, but then the end I just trimmed into a V shape. This being by far the most efficient way of skewering those mobile infantry. So once you've got all 4 legs, it's just a case of gluing them all together, which is quite nice and easy, considering you've got these big square blocks. Give you lots of surface area and straight edges to glue everything together to. So what you want to be doing is making sure that each of the 4 legs is facing a different direction, as you can see here. And once they're all in place and dry, you then have this large square area on top where you can glue the head. So when we glue the head onto the legs here, we're going to make sure the head is glued diagonally. And if you did give your arachnid a mobile infantry skewer, then remember to put that at the front, where it can better defend itself from those alien invaders. So one thing I forgot to mention when we were doing the legs is that we need to do the claw talon things that stick out from the side of the head. So for that, we're going to use an offcut from the zip tie that we used for one of the legs. And it's the same process again. So it's going to be 2 centimeter length. We're going to bend that the same as we did with the leg. Another 2 centimeters, and then create a second bend in the opposite direction. We'll then just need a small length, which will have to be the same width as your peg. And once that's done, just the same on the opposite side, trim the zip tie and cut into a V. When that's done, you might want to give the middle section just a bit of sand. This will give the super glue something to grip onto when it's sticking to the head. So like I said, with the bases, I really wanted to use a poker chip because I've got more of these than I know what to do with, but they really are just too small. And even by my standards, that's just not going to do. So what I'm going to use instead is one of these, I think this was a coffee lid, but you can get them from various kind of foodstuffs. This is my go-to for any large creature bases, and it does just look a lot better in the end. So I'm going to mark out where the feet go. And then I'm just going to give each of these areas a little sand, just again to make the glue stick a little bit better to it. Sanding's a good idea for any kind of plastic that you're going to be gluing anyway, so just bear that in mind. And with that done, you should find that the feet stick quite easily then. For the arachnid on the right here, you can see I've just cut out a circle from a margarine tub and glued it to that as the base. It's a technique I've used before on various things, and that's always seemed to work fine. Anytime I can just mass spray paint anything, I will, just to get the job done quicker. So that's what I'm doing here. Obviously short bursts, thin coats. It's exactly the kind of advice you would get from other channels, but not here. My preferred technique being just keep on going until it's done. And as you can see, that technique has never let me down yet. So all that's really left to do now is just the yellow detailing. So just the yellow stripes around the body and the underside of the legs. Originally here, I used the yellow Sharpie to add the yellow stripe details. You know what? Just ignore old me. I didn't know what I was talking about and I was just being lazy. Later, I just painted over it with the cheap yellow ochre craft paint and the finished result is so much better. It gives a much more natural and organic look to the finished models, and for some reason that I can't quite explain, makes them look a lot scarier too. A quick Google search, and it appears that they have stripes along the side of their kind of head, body, and the underside of the legs and claws. They don't seem to have stripes across the top of the head and body. Again, I'm just wishing I used a paintbrush for this part rather than the pen to give more natural, thicker stripes. That said, once you've got a few swarms of these things out on the table, they very quickly start to look cool and scary. I can't wait to get them all out on the table. I'll probably use some one-page rules, grimdark future rules for them. Probably the alien hives versus human defense force to reenact some of the battles from Starship Troopers. But here I'm just considering some of the different bases. Like I said, the poker chips would have been ideal for me, but they are very small and they just don't suit the aesthetic. The lid from the gravy or Pringles is perfect size. I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. And the third one with just the thin sheet of plastic cut from the top of a margarine tub. Again, that also works really well. So I'll just finish off with a few shots of them in action on the tabletop. As I said, I really would like to do a battle report at some point in the near future with these guys, probably using the one-page rules Grimdark Future, and I will let you know how that goes. Thank you very much for watching, if you're still watching. I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a thumbs up, maybe even subscribe. So please smash those buttons or hit the bubbles or whatever it is that the cool kids are calling it these days. This is just my second video and I still get crazy excited whenever I see that I've got a new subscriber or there's a new comment. I've got lots more very cheap, very simple ideas that I can't wait to put out there. I think I've now worked out how to make a decent TIE fighter, which should go with the X-Wing that I made in my first video. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't even involve clothes pegs. So thanks again. I really do appreciate your support. And until next time, stay cheap and easy.